Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. So a while back I picked up the Tony Bose Swayback Gent. I've already done a video on that. At the same time I was picking this knife up, though, in the same order I picked up the Case Mini-Blackhorn. I've never had one of these, but I thought it was time to go ahead and grab one. And then recently I saw RJ's Knives video on how Gerber kind of changed the makeup of the knife world by introducing a lightweight polymer for their handles, and that was the Zytel handles on, I think it's the LST or something like that. Basically a small little knife, which Case has also duplicated. This one is not Case. This might have actually been made by Gerber also, but it also has the same Zytel type of handles. This is a Sears Craftsman knife, but you see it also has the Zytel handle, similar to what you see in the Blackhorn knives and numerous knives out there that use Zytel. I picked up the Blackhorn because apparently it's a very popular knife by Case collectors, and it is a knife that Case likes to do things with this little area here. I think RJ talked a little bit about Zytel before, going into what it is, and it is basically a fiberglass reinforced nylon, FRN for short, but it is a specific kind that was made by DuPont, and Case has a long history of using another type of material that was developed by DuPont, which is Delrin, and this is my Sodbuster Jr. for Wald Drug from WR Case and Son, and this uses the yellow Delrin handle. And again, Delrin is a type of thermoplastic that was developed by DuPont. And I would like to just warn a few people. A lot of other knives out there use some kind of yellow plastic. This is a Rough Rider. This is an earlier Rough Rider that was made in Ireland. I've also got yellow comp knives from other companies too. But basically, unless they're actually saying Delrin, chances are it's not Delrin. It is some other kind of thermoplastic. And it's something you need to be aware of. So it is not going to necessarily be as good as Delrin. Now, numerous companies do use Delrin besides Case. The older Schrade knives use Delrin, and Camillus also used Delrin for the thermoplastic handles. Just like numerous companies use Zytel. And if they are using Zytel, they will actually say it is Zytel. So for instance, when you're picking up a Spyderco, they will say that it is an FRN handle. They do not specify what the FRN is. So if it was actually Zytel, I think they would say it is Zytel. But this is coming out of Japan, so it's some kind of Japanese equivalent FRN to Zytel. It may or may not be as good as Zytel. And I think that's kind of an important thing to point out when you're looking at the knives. Just because something looks like Delrin or looks like Zytel doesn't necessarily mean it is the same material. It may be a better quality, it may be a lesser quality, but that is often why you will see this material not listed as Delrin, but as composition or yellow comp. And as people reviewing the knives we need to be careful when we're talking about it, because unless it is truly Delrin and specified as Delrin, we're better off to say that it is a composition material or Delrin-like or something like that. And same thing with this. And, all right, enough of the ranting about what is Zytel and what is Delrin and stuff. Let's go into the Mini-Blackhorn. Now, this particular Mini-Blackhorn I have here is dated from October 30th, 2018. And you see here 059L, 059LSS, the L standing for Lockback, and it says here 00253 is the number for it. And the first thing I noticed when I opened it up is there are no dots to date this by. It has a specific case tang stamp, but underneath that it just says 059LSS and then USA, and there's no dots on the back side of it. And I found that kind of curious, and I was wondering, have they never put dots on a Blackhorn? And so I started digging around and finding out a little bit of information about the history of this knife. The first thing I found out was, how long has this knife actually been around? And I wasn't able to get an actual pinpointed date, but I do know that when I went to the trademark database, the filing date for it was June 22nd, 1988, and it was registered as a trademark on February 7th, 1989. However, the first commercial use of the name Mini-Blackhorn was on October 15th, 1987. So it would seem that, if nothing else, possibly Case introduced the knife on October 15th, 1987 as a new product or something like that, and it came out shortly thereafter. So most likely, I would say they probably introduced it in 1987, and it showed up in production in 1988, at the beginning of 1988. I don't know for certain. That is what I gather when I look at the trademark information on it. And I have noticed that it really has not changed much. You have this little flat area here where you can do any kind of modifying and everything, and you notice it is just a molded handle here, and you notice it is currently in two parts. I don't know if it was always in two parts or not, but it looks like it's two parts that are molded together, and you got the back spring running down the back here with the pin there that holds it in place. You see the pin drop, or the spring going in, and it locks in place really well. And like I said, on here, you notice there are no dots or anything. According to the Case historian, I read this on Blade Forum. She actually posted a thing about the dots on the Mini-Blackhorns, and basically in 2009, Case made a decision to stop giving this knife anything more than a generic tang stamp. So in 2010, it came out with what they call the Era tang stamp, which is this form of case with the long tail and the double X there. And then in 2020, they ended up switching this out for the new Case double X tang stamp, but the dots are not used. So basically, the best you can do, unless you have the box that the knife came in, is get this down to the decade that the knife was made in. And it was a conscious decision on their part, simply because they make so many of these, and they also use this blade on a couple other knife patterns, and rather than go through the effort of trying to date them and everything else, they figured it was easier just to stamp out the blades and use them as they needed to, because the Mini-Blackhorn is one of their knives that they do a lot of subsets of, such as you'll see these with the Marine Corps logo, and you'll see them with the Army logo on it. There's also like a Cub Scout one that they did, and a Boy Scout one that they've done, and stuff like that. And rather than make a special run with them, it's easier to kind of make them up in bulk, and then just with the blades, and then just slap the blade in there. So if they have a special run or something, they've got plenty of blades laying around that are a generic blade for the decade. And my assumption is, even if they have leftover blades from the previous decade, so from 2010 to 2020, and they still have them laying around, you'll find them on a knife made in 2022. The only way you would know that the knife was from 2022 is if you have the date on the box. That's my assumption. I could be wrong there, but I can't see them worrying too much about it. The knife is it's just a knife, a very simple, inexpensive knife that they make. There is really nothing special about it, other than the fact that for a $17, $18 knife, it is really pretty decent. No real wobble in the blade, a really good lockup going on, really strong pins holding it in place, and the blade is dropping right there, right down the middle. It's not a real problem. Yeah, might be showing a little bit to the back side of the blade or the knife, but does it really matter, considering you're talking about Zytel? So the handles on the knife act as the washer for the blade too. So what I do like about this blade, though, is it's got, while it is a short pull, it is kind of set up like a long pull on the knife. Really easy to grasp, and no, it is not drop shutty or anything. You got a very strong lockup going, but it's pretty cool. And you got a little lanyard hole, so you can hook it up to a keychain or something like that if you wanted to. And it's not a very big knife, but it's got a fairly usable blade. They say, I was just saying it's 3 inches or so, but they say it's like 3.13. It's like 3 1/8 inches long or so. Got a couple other knives here to compare it to. So if you look at a Case Peanut, very popular knife too, it's definitely bigger than a Case Peanut. Let's compare main blades. See the difference in the main blades for a Case Peanut versus the Mini-Blackhorn. Got a nice little drop point blade going on there versus the clip blade. If you look at it compared to the Toothpick, a 3-inch Toothpick is almost as long as the same handle as the Mini-Blackhorn handle. The blade length is the same. Cutting edge on the Toothpick, I would say, is slightly longer, ever so slightly longer. Let's try and compare it. Yeah, you can see right there. Got a 2.5-inch cutting edge versus just under 2.5 inches of a cutting edge on the, I'm sorry, that's a 2-inch cutting edge, I think. Yeah, 2-inch cutting edge versus a cutting edge that is just under 2 inches. Obviously the Toothpick, I think, is a little more elegant looking, but they do have the executive knife, which is the 004 pattern, which uses the same blade and it has a stainless steel handle, so that looks a little more classy. Of course, I think the little Toothpick is more classy than even the executive, but for a modern style folder, this isn't too bad. Comparing it to, this is an Eagle Eye by Frost. The two knives are about the same length and size. The Eagle Eye will have a longer blade, but these often will have a serrated blade, and the steel in these is a questionable 420 steel versus Case's True Sharp 420 high carbon. And you can see the difference in blade shapes there. Let's do it this way. See the difference in blade shapes, but the handle shapes are about the same on the top side there. If you can see that, handle shape is about the same on the top, not the same on the bottom. And the blade, but the blade is approximately the same length, about the same. Actually, the blade on the Blackhorn is slightly longer than it is when you compare cutting edge. And also, this is a fine edge the whole way versus the serrated edge here. And finally, let's compare it to the little Cub Lockback. This one is by Queen. And this one, this obviously is my favorite of all of these. And this is a little more expensive because it's in the abalone, but you can see which one has a much longer and more usable blade, but this one just feels better in the hand to me even. But nothing to complain about with the Blackhorn. I can see why it is popular and why so many people like to collect them, because well, quite frankly, it's actually a pretty good usable size for a small fifth pocket knife, or something that is going to be non-threatening to carry just about anywhere. I know that it's a shame that they don't make a slip joint version of it, because then it would be able to be carried in even more locations, because this is a lockback, so you have that going against it for certain locations for legality. But for most places where blade length is really the only issue, this knife could be carried just about anywhere and no one is really going to feel threatened by it. But you can see here, handle length isn't bad, and you can get your finger up on there, and I feel very comfortable using this lockback. It's a very strong lockback. I really don't have any complaints against it. One thing I was thinking though, and I might end up doing that, is you might be able to turn this into a half choil easy enough, because if you see here, you can get your finger up like that, but I think if you were to just cut out a little portion of the Zytel, right like there, say cut out the Zytel at an angle about like so, you might be able to actually create a finger choil up in front here. And I was looking at when the blade is closed, it wouldn't really matter too much. So basically, you just take and file down right about like so. Open the blade, kind of mark right here. See, mark right about here with a marker or something, and then mark again right here, and then file off that part right there. You know, kind of hit it with a grinding stone, round it down a bit, and it should not hurt the functionality of the knife. The pivot is down far enough so that you shouldn't be able to hit anything there, and you'd be able to open it and have a forward choil right there, so you could actually put your hand into that even better and get an even better grip on it. So I might try that and see how that works out. If it works out well, I'll let you know. If it doesn't, well, then I'll have to go and buy another mini Blackhorn. Might pick up a couple of these anyway, but I'll get other ones that have some kind of design on here. Probably should get the U.S. Army one. I don't think I'll get the Marine one. I'll leave that for a real Marine. And I'll talk to you again soon. In the meantime, stick around for the specs on this knife and the slideshow, and I'll compare it to some of these other knives down here. let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.